What is going on, everybody? What is going on, the Catch fam? It is Steven here, and in today's stream, we're going to do another 2022 NFL mock draft. This time, we're going to be doing a 2-round mock draft, though, so a little bit different. This is the first time I have done a 2-round mock draft, so going to be kind of experimenting a bit, kind of seeing a little bit of also just like how what kind of prospects are available there in the second round. I will say that what we are also going to really try to do in these in these in these picks is we're going to try to get a fantasy fallout for all these picks too. What kind of fantasy football is going to be the running backs, the receivers, which might be going more in the second round, especially the running backs too, right? Because they go a lot in the second round. So we're going to also give you some input there as well. And then after the mock draft, guys, we are going to break into some fantasy football, just reactions to kind of some stuff to maybe look at in terms of 2022 as well that isn't about these rookies. Because there's just so much that I want to talk about when it comes to fantasy, guys. So in that chat, definitely be letting me know what's going on. We want to talk about some movies as well. It's just going to be a little hangout for Friday night. Kick off your guys' Friday nights the right way. I had a hell of a day today between 9 and 5, so I'm looking to just kick back, relax with the Catch fam, right? But guys, like I said too, like let's keep that chat popping. Definitely while you guys are in there, I'm gonna try to get to you guys maybe like every 5 or 10 picks, kind of come in there and see what's popping. I promised a few of you we would be talking about some movies and things like that. So I want to get into that. One movie in particular that I really want to check out is the Don't Look Up. That was a great movie as well, right? But let's get into it. Let's get into this mock draft using a new site today as well, which is what I'm pulling up in the background. So want to make sure that's squared away for you guys. That's not it. It's over here. Here we go. 2 rounds mock draft. Let's get into it. Normal speed. And let's kick it off here. So again, this is a new format that we're doing here. Pretty cool website though. They've got some cool stuff going on over here. I like how they show you the picks that are up next too, right? So you can see, all the picks that are the next following ones, right? So alrighty. So first up, Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm not going to take too long here. Taking offensive tackle here. Evan Neal, best offensive lineman in the draft. Also, more importantly, the best offensive tackle in this draft. He's going to be able to aid the most important asset for the Jags, Trevor Lawrence. Now, when we're talking about fantasy implications, how does this shake out, right? Well, we saw what the Bengals could do when they put more weapons around this team. I think the Jags definitely have the draft capital to go out and get some receivers, maybe spend some money in free agency. They got Doug Peterson as a head coach, who is a great coach. He won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. Shout out any Eagles fans. I know Ron's a big Eagles fan, right? But getting Evan Neal is a starting place, right, for Trevor Lawrence. This was a guy who I think a lot of us were disappointed in terms of his fantasy output in 2021 because the guy has all the gifts you need, right? He's supposed to be the next Greek god of football, and he clearly was not, right? So now when we're looking at him next year, if we can shore up that protection, he was getting hit way too much. He's going to have more of an opportunity to feel comfortable and reach those targets, right? Which I do think they will start kind of surrounding him with, right? Number 2 here, we got Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan, staying hometown. This is going to be a 10-year type of pass rusher. He's going to be around for a very, very long time. One of my favorite players in this draft, the top edge rusher in this draft. Number 3, we got the Houston Texans here going edge again, Kayvon Thibodeau. So very chalky to start this off. But you really just cannot let a guy like Kayvon Thibodeau go from Oregon. He's strong in the run, he's strong in the pass, and has some of the highest upside amongst all the prospects this year. Now, both Aiden and Kayvon, obviously, they don't have like major, fantasy implications here, but they are going to be really good building blocks for both of these teams, which are really big of a rebuild stage, right? So I think these guys are going to be great for their teams. In terms of fantasy, I don't think you want to draft either of these defenses anyways, right? Up next, we got the New York Jets. New York Jets are up on the clock. They've got a ton of needs. If you're me and you're looking at what we've got here, you got running back, you got a running back and quarterback kind of situated. I love Michael Carter. I love Elijah Moore, the receiver as well. I like Zach Wilson. I think you can at least give him another year, right? So you've got some building blocks for the next couple years, but definitely need to keep surrounding that squad with talent. So the receiver position is something you should definitely still be looking at. But they've got a couple draft picks, right? They have an early second round draft pick, and they've also got another top 10 pick right at number 10, right, where they can go at that receiver position, right? Because while there's some really good players at the receiver position in the draft, you don't want to take one in the top 5 this year. You really don't. I mean, honestly, maybe if Jameson Williams never got hurt, I could kind of see that. But with him getting hurt, I can't really give too much protection. I can't give too much credit to that. So what I am noticing about this site is this advertisement is going to become a pain in my existence. Well, whatever. All right, so offensive tackle, that's what we want to be looking at here. I really like Ike Ekwonu from NC State. You guys already know it, man. I'm obsessed with this dude. This guy is going to be an absolute machine in the NFL. I think he would be great for the New York Jets too. And I think, they also got Hamilton there, the safety from Notre Dame, who could be a really good fit for them. But when I'm just looking at these guys, it's really get best available, and it's between Icky, Charles Cross for me right now. Charles Cross fits the scheme, I think, a little bit more. A guy that's going to move around a bit more, going to fit that zone scheme. I'm going to take Charles Cross here, use him on that offensive line, protect my guy, Zach Wilson. I don't want to give too much of a my guy shout out to him, but let's just talk about the fantasy implications out of this, right? You got Becton on the outside, add another offensive tackle here, just in case you lose some free agents. And also, we'll see how Becton comes back from injury, right? Because he had a lot of upside. He's a big dude for sure. And if you can get both these guys to guard the outside, you got the rookie that they drafted last year on the interior. You could have a really good, strong offensive line to play that zone scheme, open up guys like Michael Carter and Zach Wilson. I think we could see Zach Wilson be a top 24 quarterback in fantasy football next year. And I say that with confidence. I mean, I know when you're looking at 20 to 24, that ranking at the quarterback spot, it's kind of murky, right? You're not really looking at a true star anyways, right? But I think Zach Wilson gives you that rushing upside for sure. And I think he's going to make a breakout in year 2. Michael Carter is a guy for sure you need to be thinking about in terms of your fantasy outlook next season. I mean, he had a really good back half to that year once he got his shot. I think he's a really good dynasty running back. And if you can add some more offensive line protection to this squad with the Jets, I mean, man, the upside is untapped, right? So let's help them out. And man, if Zach Wilson gets helped out, Elijah Moore is going to get helped out. Up next, we got number 5 on the board, Ike Ekwonu, offensive lineman here for the Giants. For sure, I'm taking this, right? I would be highly surprised if the Giants did not take an offensive lineman with their first pick. In fact, I think it would be a really good idea for them to take 2 offensive linemen with their top 10 picks because all we've been hearing in the offseason so far is that they're going to build around that offensive line and give Daniel Jones the protection he needs to see what kind of prospect he really is, right? So I think they are going to do that, and Icky really fits this scheme well. It's going to be between Cross and Icky to see who goes there. I think Icky playing the run as well is going to open up Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley, we're going to get into him later when we start talking about fantasy football, but Saquon Barkley is a dynasty asset that has a lot of question marks. Even in redraft leagues, he's kind of a question mark, right? I think if you can bring in the offensive line support that they desperately need, Saquon Barkley is a first-round type of talent next year. Like, if they really invest there, I truly believe that because the injuries are obviously a question mark, but we've seen a lot more hesitancy from Saquon Barkley recently as well, right? So, and I think that's just because he doesn't trust the guys protecting him, right? So let's get those guys in front of you. Let's help them out there. Number 6, we got the Carolina Panthers here. I've been taking quarterback every single time for the Carolina Panthers. I am not going to change up right there at all, guys. I'm going to stay quarterback. But what's going to be different here is after watching the Senior Bowl, what I'm seeing there, Kenny Pickett, the small hands, the hand gate, as they say, it's a real thing, man. Those small hands are not clocking in well. It's going to be very concerning. I don't know if he's going to be a top 10, top 15 draft pick anymore. He just really didn't prove enough to me so far in the Senior Bowl practices. The game is tomorrow, so maybe he will shine a little bit more there. He has shown better touch and sometimes a little bit better ball placement in the red zone than most of the quarterbacks here. But the guy that is the number one quarterback for me now is Malik Willis. He has overtaken that spot. I already love this guy, right? I had him going right outside the top 10 in previous drafts, but Malik Willis from Liberty, man, you watch this guy play. This guy can make any single throw you need him to. In fact, he has been clocked as having the hardest pass or the pass with the most velocity in Senior Bowl history over guys like Josh Allen, over guys like Justin Herbert. I mean, this guy is for real at throwing the ball. He just needs to figure out how to play with a better structure, not get too scattered in the pocket when he gets a little pressure. But man, when he does get the pressure, he's like Jalen Hurts, just a little bit faster, right? I mean, this is going to be an amazing fantasy asset, guys. In terms of fantasy football implications here, let's say Malik Willis does go to the Carolina Panthers, right? Which I think could be possible, right? I think that bolsters up Christian McCaffrey a ton, right? I know Christian McCaffrey really needs a better offensive line, but he also needs a quarterback, right? So let's get Malik Willis in there. He is going to expand this offense. He is going to let this offense get to that next level. He's also going to lift guys like Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, who we all love in fantasy. I think bringing him in, it might take a few games for him to even get the starting job. But once he does, man, this is a fantasy gold mine because of his rushing upside. Just like Trey Lance last year, we need to be looking at him like a big time asset this season for fantasy. New York Giants back on the clock, man. And you know what? I talked about it earlier about what I would do. Well, I'm going to stay with that, man. I'm going interior offensive line here. I'm going Tyler Linderbaum, a blue chip stud center for Iowa. This guy is going to be able to shore up that offensive line. And now you look at the Giants' first two picks. Man, are they going to put Daniel Jones, Sterling Shepard, Saquon Barkley in a hell of a lot better position. We'll see if Kenny Golladay ends up actually running any routes for them and kind of gets back together. But I still think that this team, if they can do this strategy, double dip per se, at the offensive line spot, it's going to put them in the best position they can out of the draft in their top first and second round, right? Checking out the chat real quick. Doug Peterson won. I think Doug Peterson's going to really just fill the same needs that these guys absolutely need, right? Which is that corner, linebacker, D-line position for sure, right? Danny Dimes forever. Just trade CMC to a good team, please. Yeah, I would like to see Christian McCaffrey get traded. And in fact, you know, if it really does come down to them trying to land a free agent quarterback, we could see them go after maybe an A-Rod, maybe a Deshaun Watson, and use Christian McCaffrey as a chip to do that deal. Or Seattle, because you know Seattle loves their running back position. So number 8, we got the Atlanta Falcons up on the board. Are they going quarterback? Get rid of Matt Ryan? No, they're not. They're not doing that. They're going to give Matt Ryan a little bit more time. You got, you know, not the greatest options at quarterback this year, but they do have a lot of other spots they can go. Treylon Burks is a guy that really excites me. In fact, he's my number 3 fantasy upside type of guy, just overall out of the rookies this year. I'm going to be putting out a lot of content going forward over the next couple weeks about the fantasy implications of each of these individual top first, second round players, especially because I haven't really talked a whole lot about these running backs because they don't get drafted in the first round, right? Not anymore, anyways, unless you're like a Greek god, I mean, think about it, right? Trent Richardson got drafted in the first round. We saw how that worked out for the Colts and the Browns when they had him, right? But anyways, the Atlanta Falcons, right? Garrett Wilson, Treylon Burks, these guys could be the type of dudes that they're looking at if they actually do get off of Calvin Ridley, which I think is a possibility for sure here. but you're really looking at best available, what they really need here. I mean, the website kind of talks about it a little bit. They do need that edge support a lot. And this year's draft class, man, this is like where they are best at. Jermaine Johnson has had a lights out Senior Bowl, man. He has definitely elevated himself into the top 20. Or maybe 20 to 30, but for sure first round. And for a while, he was outside of that, right? So with the number 8 pick, I'm going to stick to my guns here because I do think Calvin Ridley is going to be gone. And I'm going to go receiver. Treylon Burks, I think he's going to get taken. This is a guy who's rising up everyone's boards. Treylon Burks is going to be a fantastic asset for the Falcons. In terms of fantasy implications here, big time implications, right? We saw how they used Cordero Patterson. Treylon Burks is like an A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, used like a Deebo Samuel. Well, what is Cordero Patterson and cheese? Cordero Patterson and cheese is just a lower undervalued, or not undervalued. He's just a lower value Deebo Samuel, right? So let's get this young rookie from Arkansas, who is an absolute machine, to get in there, do that Swiss Army knife type of work. This guy is going to make a big time fantasy impact year one. If Calvin Ridley's gone, man, I mean, the ceiling is unlimited, man. And you're going to be able to get this guy a pretty good volume too, or a pretty good ADP, right? So yeah, I love that decision there. Number 9, we got the Denver Broncos on the clock, man. These quarterbacks, I tell you what, like I want to take a quarterback here because, we can't necessarily say they're going to get Aaron Rodgers or somebody like that, but I don't know, right? I don't like these quarterbacks. And I've taken a lot of quarterbacks in past mock drafts because it's just such a high value position, but after watching them the Senior Bowl, I'm just like, wow, dude, like can you really look at these guys and think that, there's any sort of reasoning to drafting them this high? They're not the future of your franchise, more than likely. So you look at their draft needs. Edge is definitely something they need to be looking at. David Ajabo, you know how much I love my man David Ajabo. George Karlaftis, obviously still there as well, but I don't think he fits that scheme. I think David Ajabo does, and I'm going to take him from Michigan. He's still going in the top 10 for me. He has not yet fallen out of there. But hey, I could also see Kyle Hamilton going here too to the Denver Broncos. I think he would have been a great pick for them. I mean, I know they got Justin Simmons, but make a pairing like that in the back end with freaking what was the guy, Patrick Surtain at corner? I mean, that secondary would be dynamite, dude. Holy shit. But whatever, we didn't do it. But at number 10, guess what? Guess what the New York Jets are going to do? Yeah, they're looking down the barrel of Kyle Hamilton at number 10, and you cannot let that man slip. We're taking Kyle Hamilton for sure here. And look at what the Jets have done. They built on the offensive line with their first pick. Their second pick, they took Kyle Hamilton, the safety, the stud, man, the Jamal Adams replacement. This guy is going to be a lockdown superstar, blue chip, badass, bro. He is going to come make some noise, right? And the Jets, man, they need a player like that because let me tell you what, right? The NFL, the way it's changing, you need these versatile players that can play multiple positions. He's exactly that kind of guy, like that honey badger approach, right? Except he's got a little bit more bulk to him, right? He was tremendous at Notre Dame. I mean, this is probably he's a top 3 favorite prospect at this entire draft, right? It's just a shame he's such a low value position, but man, he is going to be a problem for AFC East opponents, man. And they need that to shut down a guy like Josh Allen. I mean, the Pats and the Jets, I mean, the Dolphins, wow, they're in a whole lot of chaos right now, but Pats and the Jets, man, you need to get fast dudes that can run around and really go after Josh Allen's mobility, but also play him in the pass as well. So that's where they're going to be looking for sure. Let's take a look at the catch right here. The catch is out here, man. John, what are you doing, man? What is up, my guy? The Broncos only know how to draft. I feel like safety is the easiest position to draft. I mean, like, I don't know how I feel totally about that comment. Like, I don't know if the safety is the easiest to draft. I just feel like you're gonna get guys that have tremendous ball skills because that's really what they're reading when they're playing that free safety role. But you've also got to have a guy that's gonna come up and make a hit, right? That's the big deal, and that's what a lot of those guys are not willing to do. But Kyle Hamilton is willing to do that. Number 11, we got the Washington football team up here. And you know what? They're pissed off, right? They're really pissed off because they wanted Malik Willis. They definitely would have taken him here, in my opinion. You look at their draft needs, right? Safety was one of them. So I think they would have taken Kyle Hamilton here as well if he had slipped. But guess what? He did not slip. We're taking Matt Corral here, who I think, he was one of the only quarterbacks that were ranked in that maybe like top 5 consensus coming out of this draft to not be at the Senior Bowl, right? And I think that, that was a good thing for him, right? Because all the other guys didn't really show out. And so Matt Corral is kind of a question mark, right? There's so much more excitement sometimes the unknown is better than the known. And I think that's what is going to happen here because that Senior Bowl, we all know now that those guys aren't franchise changing type of players, right? More than likely outside of maybe a Malik Willis, right? Matt Corral, great arm for a long time when he was like kind of the surefire pick this year. And then, he got the injury, kind of fall off towards the back half of the year. But I thought he was going to be really good. I think Matt Corral coming into Washington, fantasy implications wise, it definitely gives a boost to a guy like Terry McLaurin, gives a boost to a guy like Antonio Gibson. Because I think Matt Corral's mobility, the fact that he can get out of the pocket better than Taylor Heineke, because Heineke was good at that, but he was good at that because he was like super gritty, right? He was like a Romo Favre type of guy. Matt Corral's actually got some speed to him. He played that RPO system at Ole Miss. I think he's going to come in there and do really well for Washington and expand the role of these other playmakers here for the Washington Commanders, man. The Washington Commanders, you got your new quarterback. You got this new revolutionizing position. All right, the Minnesota Vikings up on the clock here. Lot of craziness happened last night or the night before we were on here talking, and we were talking like Harbaugh was going to be the Vikings coach. It didn't work out. That didn't work out. We really thought that was going to happen for a second, though, didn't we? They got the Rams, old OC. I think that was a good hiring. I mean, dude, these Sean McVay like apprentices and the Shanahan apprentices, they just get jobs left and right. I wish I could land a job with one of those guys. I'd get any sort of job I wanted just by knowing them. I mean, that's exactly what happens. I mean, Zach Taylor, all these guys get jobs. But either way here, I think edge rush, corner, these are definitely spots that you need to go here for them. And I think, they've drafted a lot of corners recently, but nobody that's really made that serious of an impact. And we've got a loaded corner class this year. Loaded corner class. You look at this board right here, Derek Stingley Jr., Ahmad Gardner, Andrew Booth Jr., Trent McDuffie, Roger McCreary, just tons of guys. I mean, the list honestly goes on because a couple of the guys I really like aren't even shown here. Kyler Gordon, Kyra Elam. So I think they definitely go corner. And my first corner off the board is going to be Ahmad Gardner from Cincinnati. If you guys have listened to any of my mock drafts before, any of my just kind of streams before, you know how much I love this guy. Can play man, zone. He was played against some of the best competition. He really showed how good he was against Alabama in the championship. He's the real deal. And I expect Ahmad Gardner, he's going to come in. He's going to play very physical football for the Minnesota Vikings, pair up with a guy like Harrison Smith to really lock down that defense. Maybe the Vikings can make a comeback to with the defense we used to see them being. I mean, they were a good fantasy defense a couple of years ago, right? So maybe Ahmad Gardner comes in here. He has a big impact year one, like Patrick Surtain did for the Broncos. Harrison Smith gets back, stays healthy. This defense kind of gets rejuvenated, right? They had a couple good pass rushers last year, but they need more, right? But I think this Vikings defense could be a fantasy relevant defense again in a very short period of time. Cleveland Browns up on the clock, and man, do they have one of the best edge rushers in the game right now with Myles Garrett. Jadeveon Clowney going to be up for free agency. I don't think they signed him back, so you could definitely consider the edge spot. They also love LSU corners. Delpit they brought in. Greedy Williams they brought in. They do love those LSU corners. Derek Stingley on the board sliding. But no, you got to build around Baker Mayfield. You got to bring in a guy that is going to help him this year, right? And in last week's mock draft, I took Jameson Williams here. I'm going to take Garrett Wilson here, right? A guy who's going to come in day one and help you out, right? And let's break this down a little bit for fantasy because I think there's a lot of fantasy implications out of Garrett Wilson. This guy's going to be able to come in day one and be the starter, right? Donovan Peoples-Jones, step aside. This is going to become Baker Mayfield's new guy. And guess who the comp is on this Garrett Wilson kid? Odell Beckham Jr., right? So he's going to be a great asset for them. Very squeaky receiver. I mean, he is fast. He can catch any pass. Baker Mayfield has great touch anyways. And I think this is going to open him up for sure. This is going to let Baker Mayfield prove that he's not the quarterback of last year. Maybe he's a quarterback of his rookie year, the year before last, right? It's going to put the Browns in a really bad spot because then they're going to have to maybe consider giving him a big contract, right? But either way, Garrett Wilson's going to be great for Cleveland. And I think fantasy-wise, you're kind of looking at Wilson. I mean, he's my wide receiver too coming out of this draft, right behind Jameson Williams. But in terms of fantasy, you got Treylon Burks and Garrett Wilson, right? Both in great spots here. And Garrett Wilson could get more receiving volume than Treylon Burks does. I just think Treylon Burks is a better fantasy asset just slightly, but man, are they close. Number 14, we got the Baltimore Ravens on the clock, man. And wow, yeah, defense, right? Defense. That's where they need to build, right? Because the offensive side of the football, not as serious, right? Their offense, they've got those skill guys coming back. J.K. Dobbins is going to be really fantasy relevant next year, man. That guy, he was a third-round projected pick coming into this year. Didn't pan out because of the injury, but man, when he comes back, that's going to be big time. And they got a Gus the Bus Edwards there too. So let's let that run open up the passing game like Hollywood Brown, Rashad Bateman. But it all starts here, man. Edge and interior D-line. These are the spots you need to be looking at. You've got a couple guys in mind. I mean, Devon White has had a lights-out performance at the Senior Bowl. He's been a real riser. I already talked about Jermaine Johnson being a guy who has been lighting up the boards. But then they've also got Derek Stingley Jr., who I think they're going to be attracted to his profile. I mean, this guy was literally a god at the corner position his rookie year. And I get it, the injuries have been bad, and the Ravens kind of have some injury problems themselves. But I think you're looking at a lockdown superstar corner if he pans out for you. So I'm taking Derek Stingley Jr. here. Add some youth here to a team that needs youth at that corner spot. And man, if this guy pans out, he is going to be a guy that is going to be able to hang with the Deontay Johnsons, the potential Garrett Wilsons, right? In that AFC North for a long time, man. And you know, I think maybe he's caught a little bit too much heat recently, right? Because this guy was a top 4 draft pick consensus across all mockers, across all analysts for a long time. And then everybody just started shitting on him because of his injuries that he's had over the past couple of years. And I get it. But this guy's talent, I mean, it's Jalen Ramsey-esque if he can get drafted and stay healthy. Philadelphia Eagles up on the clock, man. 1 of 3 picks. Man, they've got a lot of spots here, as you guys can see, right? The Eagles are at 15, 16, and then they come back at 19. A lot of things they can do. I definitely think building around Jalen Hurts is a big time priority for them, right? And you've got a couple guys there that can really get it done for you that are available there too, right? Jameson Williams still on the board. I mean, that guy's a superstar. I get it. The injury's bad, but you know, at the end of the day, you need to take a shot where you got to take a shot, right? So they're saying their biggest needs, edge, corner, interior offensive line. I don't disagree. I also think linebacker is something that they need to really look at here. I think they're going to look at what Jermaine Johnson just did in the Senior Bowl, and they're going to really consider taking him here. I like this pick right here. I like Jermaine Johnson, edge rusher out of Florida State. He's built like a bull rusher, man. And he has been literally the MVP of the Senior Bowl so far. And in an edge class with a guy like George Karlaftis too, the difference is that Jermaine's long. Jermaine's more explosive. Jermaine is a freaky guy who left Georgia, and we saw how good Georgia's D-line was. Dude, Jermaine Johnson is going to get drafted higher than all of them. Jermaine Johnson is probably better than all the D-linemen coming out of Georgia this year. I'm taking him here. And the Eagles, they got to be happy with this pick, man, because this guy is going to be a stud. He is going to be able to come off the edge very easily for you guys. I think it's a great pick. They come back here, the Eagles do, and they're looking at corner, right? Got to address the corner spot. Trent McDuffie right here, number 20, 7 ranked. I don't love that, man. I think Trent McDuffie is a stud, man. In fact, I think he could be like maybe a top 2 corner that goes off the board here, right? So I'm taking Trent McDuffie corner. I think they definitely have to bring somebody in to go on opposite of Darius Slay, right? And let's say these guys do these type of picks so far, right? So we got Jermaine Johnson, edge protection. We got Trent McDuffie, corner as well. That is going to bolster that defense. And man, I tell you what, the Eagles defense already was very, very relevant in fantasy last year. So I think if they do make those moves, could be really good. Could be really good. Number 17, baby. You already know where I'm looking at here. Jordan Davis, interior defense alignment, right? Well, guys, I'm gonna pivot a little bit here. I'm gonna pivot. Shout out Friends. If you guys watch Friends, man, classic episode in Friends when they're moving the couch on the staircase and they just keep saying the word pivot. So Jordan Davis has been my pick here for a long time just because of his run-stopping ability, right? But we need to account for the moment, right? Devon White has been lighting up the Senior Bowl, as I stated, and this is a guy that is going to show more explosion. He's more of a 3-down linebacker. He can get at the quarterback a little bit more too. And this is a guy for sure who was going to continue to rise up the mock boards, rise up draft boards, and is a guy that's more versatile for the Chargers. I mean, they outside of Bosa, they need help all over the D-line in terms of getting at the quarterback. So I think Wyatt is a little bit better of a fit, man, and that's no disrespect to my guy, Jordan Davis. Number 18, Saints are on the clock. I think quarterback is definitely in the ballpark for these guys. You're looking at it, you got Kenny Pickett, you got Carson Strong, Desmond Ridder, Sam Howell, Jack Cohn, who played great in the East-West game, by the way. I was watching a little bit of that. Still need to finish the in-game highlights I had on that, or game tape I had on that. But I mean, he looked really good, and I don't like Notre Dame quarterbacks either. But you look at their team needs: quarterback, wide receiver, corner, edge. And, corner really isn't a need for them. I mean, it's honestly a pretty strong part of their defense, in my opinion. But they might be losing Marshawn Lattimore, right? They're not going to be able to give this guy the contract he wants. He's going to expect like 50 to 60 million because he's a stud. He's a stud, man. He's like one of the best corners in the league. In fact, he had the most pass breakups this season at the corner position, I believe PFF stated. So, I mean, the guy has just been churning out consistency over the past few years. So I understand why going at corner makes sense. You can get cheaper there, but for the purpose of this mock draft, I'm going to say they're not idiots, right? They don't get rid of him. But something they do need to do is get somebody on the other side of Michael Thomas. They definitely need to do that. They need to get another playmaker in there. And I'm going to say that Jameson Williams continues to slide, but they take my guy Drake London from USC, who I love. We'll see if he continues to kind of maintain this status. He's not going to run a great 40, so we'll see how that turns out. And he's got some other big-time competition, right? Because Chris Olave's there, and he's going to run a really good 40, probably a low 4.3, and he was amazing at Ohio State too, right? So, and they do like the Ohio State system, right? So I said Drake London because I love Drake London, but I'm going to go Chris Olave because I think he's more of a New Orleans Saint, at least the New Orleans Saints that we've seen have passed, right? I think it makes more sense for them to go him there. Now, Eagles are on the clock, and, we took all defense, right, to start. So first off, let me just talk about the Saints pick right there before I move on, because we got to talk about the fantasy implications of Chris Olave. Chris Olave is a very speedy receiver. Like I said, low 4.3s is what he's projected to run. Very high productive receiver at Ohio State. A lot of touchdowns. He found the red zone with ease. I think he actually had like some of the most I think he might have had the most touchdowns received in Ohio State history. Please fact check me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe he did. Very productive receiver in the red zone, which is weird because he's kind of got a slight frame, right? But he did a lot after the catch. I think him coming to the Saints, the real problem for him year one is that there's going to be no quarterback to give him the ball. So this isn't a guy I'm super high on for fantasy if he goes to the Saints, but if he can go to a team that is not quarterback needy, not quarterback desperate like the Saints, then yeah, Chris Olave is a great fantasy asset because of what kind of tools he get. But I think he's gonna, this is way too early to really call, right? But he's probably 9 or 10 round ADP, right? If he gets drafted first round, which I think he will. Unless he goes to a really good team. Like if he landed with Green Bay or something and Aaron Rodgers stayed there, I think that would make sense for him to be maybe a little bit more considered as a top fantasy asset. Eagles are on the clock, though. They got a quarterback in Philly, at least for fantasy. Jalen Hurts, a stud. He's going to be one of my top 5 quarterbacks, more than likely come fantasy season. But they need a receiver, too, to build around, right? I love the linebacker spot for the Eagles, for sure. I mean, you got Devin Lloyd, who I love, and I have not done a mock draft yet without taking Devin Lloyd or Nakobe Dean in the top 20. So this is going to be my first one because I'm going receiver for sure here. And I'm going to take Drake London, who they do not have anybody like this. And they've taken a lot of shots at the receiver position over the past few years. And I know a lot of Eagles fans who want them to continue doing that because it hasn't worked out, right? I mean, you have your JJ Arcega-Whiteside, you got your Jalen Reagor. None of these guys are working out. But the thing that Drake London's going to give you is consistency. This guy has some of the best hands in the draft, and he's also a big body power forward type receiver. I've said it before, Mike Evans is his best comp, and he is going to give something to Jalen Hurts that Devontae Smith can't give, which is, dude, if Jalen Hurts needs to, he can just chuck it up and pray. And London's going to go up and get it and come down with it, man. That's a big time weight right there. And I think Drake London, I wouldn't be surprised if he led the team in receiving touchdowns next year if he did get drafted here because, again, he gives you that red zone volume. And he's going to be fantastic in the red zone. But he's got great mitts on him too, man. This is a guy who can work it all the way down the field. He's not touchdown dependent necessarily. Just like Michael Pittman isn't, right? Michael Pittman for the Colts. He was a great sure-handed receiver too. Let's see what's going on in the chat real quick just before I take my next pick, which is going to be a pretty interesting one. Is MT even going to play next year? Meant MT. John, are you talking about Montgomery? Who are you talking about here? Tell me about that because for some reason I'm blanking on that. Eagles, after either going to have a draft that changes them for years or they'll fumble the opportunity overall. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the Eagles fans that I know think that they're going to trade out one of these picks, either trade up or trade out for other assets, like a Calvin Ridley maybe. And I think that that's probably smart. But, man, if you're looking at this draft, outside of the quarterback position, it is a super deep draft at all the good positions, all the high-value positions. So, I mean, going young with 3 picks in the top 20, that's kind of what I would do, unless you can get a surefire superstar player. Peyton could fix world hunger with just a smile if he wished. Yeah. Shout out Peyton Manning. The catch loves Peyton Manning. Mike Thomas, that's who you mean there. Yeah, okay, Mike Thomas makes way more sense. Mike Thomas, I think he is going to play. I really don't have a question about that, but I don't think he's going to play for the Saints necessarily. Especially, I mean, I can't see why he'd want to come back there unless, like, he just had a really shitty relationship with Deshaun Payton, which I don't think it was. But, I mean, the Saints also need to clear cap. And what better of a trade asset than Michael Thomas, who is a high cap player and wants no part of being in New Orleans anymore anyways, right? Let's get that toxicity out of here and clear some of the cap on the books there. And bring in Chris Olave to really open up that offense, right? Number 20, Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock, guys. And I said it's going to be interesting, and that's because they're going quarterback here. Kenny Pickett, who was the number 1 quarterback for me coming into Senior Bowl week, he's got a good chance tomorrow, man. No, he's got a chance tomorrow during the Senior Bowl game. Definitely watch it if you have not watched any of the practice. Watch the game because that's going to be really when these guys shine, especially the running backs. That's where you see the running backs especially. But Kenny Pickett from Pittsburgh, small hands are really this guy's biggest gripe, dude. His hand size is pretty alarming. It's like 8 inches, which there's been literally like no successful NFL players ever to do that. And Kenny Pickett doesn't even have like outstanding intangibles. There's nothing really outstanding about the guy. But the fact is that he was a Heisman candidate this season. 42 touchdowns and like 7 picks, I believe, were his stats for Pitt this year. And he led a Pittsburgh team which really didn't have a ton of assets outside of him to a really good season, a season that people weren't expecting. And prior in his career, I mean, he's played every year. He was a senior, redshirt senior, so he played for a long time. So a lot of game experience. But the fact is that Kenny Pickett before this year was not really relevant, right? And he did have the injury his junior year, so who knows how much of an implication that had on his poor performance. But it looked like when he was healthy this year, he showed more mobility, which is going to be good for him. And I think Pittsburgh, they need a quarterback here. Despite this not being a great quarterback class, I don't think you can walk out of the first round without taking a quarterback. I mean, there are a lot of good linemen here, and I think some quarterbacks are going to slide to the second. So that's the only situation I could see that happening. But Kenny Pickett here, I think if he went there, he's a great asset to have because with Mike Tomlin and this receiving core, I think he could really blossom. Fantasy implications, I'm not touching Kenny Pickett. I'll let him go undrafted. But with that said, I do think we could see a scenario where game 4, game 5, we're looking at Kenny Pickett and we're saying, holy shit, this guy's putting up some numbers for fantasy because this guy's got galore around him. He's got a Mike Tomlin-led offense, which is always high talent, high ceiling type of points. You got Najee Harris there, who's going to be a great comfort piece as well for the quarterback spot. So, man, if you could put Kenny Pickett there, hometown hero, right? We got Kenny going from Pitt to Pittsburgh and Aiden Hutchinson going from Michigan to Detroit. That'd be pretty good, man. I would like to see that narrative come out this year. And he even addressed it, too. He knows there's a chance he goes to the Steelers, and he's all about it. Number 21, New England Patriots on the clock. Cornerback, linebacker, wide receiver are their needs, apparently. Man, you're looking at this draft and you're just saying, holy shit, they've got just about anything they want to do right here, disposable here. They got Trevor Walker, the edge from Georgia, who is a standout for sure. George Karlaftis as well, who's still there. I think George Karlaftis, too, he could be a big-time player for them. Jordan Davis, who my biggest comp for him is Vince Wilfork, the old NFL legend. But guess what, guys? We're going and we're taking a linebacker here. Devin Lloyd, Utah linebacker. This guy, for a while, was my number 2 linebacker, but he is now my number 1 linebacker. From Utah, he was an absolute freak. High leadership, high mobility, 3-down backer who can play pass coverage tremendously well. And he's just so freaky athletically, very fast. Devon White is a great comp for him. And I think the fact that you're getting to pair that with a dude like Bill Belichick, I mean, that's just going to be scary, man. This defense is going to get even more locked and loaded. And in terms of fantasy, dude, if Bill walks away with Devin Lloyd or Nakobe Dean here, you're just talking about an even better fantasy defense that was already, I think, number 2 in 2021. And this could really elevate them, right? Because the last linebacker I think they really had to his level was like a Gerard Mayo, maybe, right? But this guy's way more athletic than Gerard Mayo. I think this could be a really good pick for them. Raiders up on the clock here, and they need interior, right? Whether it's O-line, D-line, they need that interior support. Jordan Davis makes a lot of sense to me here. But, man, I think the big thing that Josh McDaniels is going to be trying to address is protecting his quarterback, who I do think is still going to be Derek Carr. And I think that's why you're going to see Kenyon Green be a guy that they're going to attack here. Kenyon Green is the most versatile player in the offensive line on the offensive line draft prospects this year from Texas A&M. Can play guard, tackle, center. He can do it all. And I think that's why he's a great fit for Las Vegas. And they do need receiver support. They do. And you're going to have Jameson Williams still available, but I think it makes sense. In terms of fantasy fallout, this definitely does improve a guy like Josh Jacobs, I think most notably. I think Josh Jacobs, who John, I know you give a lot of support to my guy. He's a very average running back, I would say, but fantasy-wise, he's very consistent. And you build up that offensive line a little bit more because, man, the Mike Mayock GM-led regime just drafted terribly. I think you build up that O-line. You're going to really open up Josh Jacobs to do what he did his rookie year. which was really productive, man. I expected a lot more out of Josh Jacobs over the last 2 years now. Now, the Arizona Cardinals are on the clock, and I think there's a lot of needs, right? Jameson Williams is right here, dude, and I'm telling you what, this just makes too much sense to me. It just makes too much sense. This is a Super Bowl team. It's a Super Bowl caliber team. John, yes, I'm talking a little bit of smack about Josh Jacobs right now. John, where do you think Josh Jacobs is going to land fantasy rankings wise? Where do you think he's going to be? Compare him to a couple other players so I can know what tier you're talking about. Jameson Williams, though, I think taking him here makes a lot of sense. The Cardinals don't need a player to play day one. They got by for sure off talent they already had. And you could say they've invested a lot at the receiver spot. They have a lot of players already there. But Jameson Williams is a little bit different, man. This is a guy who can literally make your receiver position. He can transcend any of the talent that's there. It's a guy who can burn any DB in the league, has extreme over-the-top speed. I think he had 1,600 yards receiving, was one of the best assets in all of college football last season, was one of the main reasons Bryce Young and Alabama were as successful as they were last year. And it's a shame he got injured against Georgia in that last game because this guy would have been, in my opinion, a surefire top 10 draft pick. Dallas Cowboys, number 24. Yeah, edge says it right there, man. That's a good need for them. Trayvon Walker and George Karlaftis are right here too. You also got Cameron Thomas from San Diego State, who's a badass. I don't love either of these guys, but George Karlaftis does have a tremendous amount of grit and persistence, and sometimes at the rushing position, that's what you need, right? A guy who is not going to stop. He's got an extremely high motor. I'm going to put him with the Dallas Cowboys here. He's a little bit different than what the typical Cowboy is, right? But I do think he is going to be something that they need, right? I don't know what that was, but George Karlaftis is going to give you that high motor like a Chris Long. He's got shorter arms, but man, this guy literally like 0% body fat, like just built like a machine, right? Like every inch of this guy's body is muscle. And I think he's going to be really good. This is a dude who honestly, I mean, you could probably move him inside just on certain snap counts, but this guy is going to be a productive edge rusher for I would say a long time too. Buffalo Bills on the clock here. Offensive line, I think, is kind of the biggest spot you got to address for them. We're seeing Jordan Davis slip, right? This is a guy who in past drafts I have not let slip. I just like him so much. But you look at Trevor Penning, on the outside, the OT spot. I think that's a good spot for them too. But then you look at a guy on the interior, which is really the bigger need for them. Zion Johnson. I think this guy did through the Senior Bowl so far prove to a lot of people that he is a first-round talent. He's played great so far in the Senior Bowl. He's played center as well as guard and looked good in both of them. And I think that's going to be really needed for a team like the Bills. And if you're the Bills, man, I get it. You're basically already a Super Bowl team, but you got to continue to build there. You got to continue to protect your guy, Josh Allen. Let's bring in Zion Johnson, a stud lineman from Boston College. Number 26, we got the Tennessee Titans on the board. Biggest needs are linebacker, tight end, corner. Not too sure anybody's taking a tight end in the first round, right? But I do think you can look at the receiver spot. Jahan Dotson makes a lot of sense here. I started hearing buzz today, John, about Aaron Rodgers going to Tennessee. Can you imagine that? A-Rod, Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, Julio's ghost. I mean, that would just be an amazing situation, right? But just speaking of Julio's ghost, Jahan Dotson's here, and he's a great receiver from Penn State. Very different than an AJ or Julio, but I do think this is a guy that could really open up Ryan Tannehill. Definitely the best hands in the draft out of all the receivers. He has not had a great Senior Bowl week so far, but fantastic player. And I don't see this guy falling out of the top 35 picks, and I like this for Tennessee here. Fantasy implications of this, man, still don't like Ryan Tannehill too much as a fantasy player next year. I think it opens up A.J. Brown a little bit because if A.J. Brown can stay healthy, I really think having a strong pair to him is going to open him up more, right? And Julio Jones, I just don't think we're ever going to get that, right? But if you also pair in, let's say Julio does come back, right? And you got AJ, Julio, Jahan Dotson. I mean, you cannot stack the box. And for anything, this really opens up Derrick Henry, who is already going to be a top 3 fantasy draft pick, right? Definitely a big time move right there for the Tennessee Titans to get that high caliber receiver. Tampa Bay, after the Tom Brady news, man. Yeah, quarterback is the biggest need, right? And you got Kyle Trask from Florida, obviously, but I think you got to make some moves. I think you got to do something. I think you got to get cheap too, because I just created a Madden franchise with these guys to really just get a gauge of what they're looking at in the offseason in terms of free agents. And John and I already talked about it, but it's really all over the place. They need free agents literally like quarterback, running back, wide receiver, O-line especially, linebackers and corners. I mean, even Carlton Davis is a free agent. Like, they might lose him. Like, he's big time, right? So I think for me, it makes a lot of sense to go quarterback here because you're not going to be picking until the back half of the second. And by then, I do think a lot of these quarterbacks are going to start rolling off the board. But if you're not going quarterback, I think you got to look at corner. In corner, there's just so much talent there right now. I mean, Roger McCreary is one of my favorite players in this draft. Andrew Booth Jr. is a tremendous athlete from Clemson. I'm putting a little bit more of my chips in the bag, though, on the quarterback spot here. I think you got Sam Howell, the North Carolina quarterback. We talked about this as being like, what kind of year is the NFC South going to have next year? Well, Sam Howell is going to be able to do, I think, exactly what the Bucks are going to need, right? I think the Bucks just want to stay relevant. I think they want to stay competitive. And I think that's exactly what Sam can do year one. We saw how damn good he was when he had talent around him. I mean, this was one of the best quarterbacks in the draft class prior to losing all his players. I mean, he had Javonte Williams, he had Michael Carter, he had Brown. He went to the Washington football team and now Commanders. I mean, he had a lot of players around him, and he was a really good quarterback for UNC. And then once they lost those guys, Sam Howell struggled, but he's got a lot of mobility. He's a very athletic player, high leadership player, and he's got a good arm on him. Got a better touch than Baker Mayfield, got a better deep throw than Baker Mayfield, but that's probably the best comp. And I think Sam Howell going to Tampa Bay, you got Mike Evans. You've still got the culture of a Super Bowl team there. You got Bruce Arians. Byron Leftwich took his name out of the Jags job, so he'll still be there. I think it's a perfect landing spot for your potential future at the franchise quarterback position here, because Sam's got that upside. He has tremendous upside. I would say more upside than a Kenny Pickett. And I think he does have franchise capabilities if he's in the right draft spot. Number 28, another team with quarterback controversies. Man, Green Bay Packers. They've got some stuff they need to figure out big time. And I think, for the purpose of this mock draft, we're going to say that they still have my guy, Aaron Rodgers, but we'll see how much longer that is, right? Tackle is definitely a place they can get better, and you got Trevor Penning right there. You got Daniel Falele as well. Man, a stud, dude, Daniel is. Dude, this guy's massive, bro. Look at that, 380 pounds. This is definitely going to be a second-round draft pick for me, but he's a beast, right? Interior D-line is another spot here. I've been taking DeMarvin Leal a lot here for the Packers. I think he makes a lot of sense, and that's where I'm going to go. I think this is a really good pick for them. Leal probably – he's tied with, I would say, Wyatt as being the most versatile interior defensive lineman. And it's really between – I've had Wyatt go a lot here as well at the Packers. But for this draft, I think if the Packers got – be a great pick for them. I think he would open up that Packers pass rush a little bit too. Now, the Miami Dolphins are on the clock at 29, and they've got a lot of needs. I mean, look at this list. This list just goes on all the way across the board. I mean, is anything not on there? They even got quarterback on there, right? They're even throwing some hate to my guy, Tua. John, I know you're going to be upset about that. But receiver for sure, I think, is something that, most Miami fans would like to put in there to pair up with a Jalen Waddle. I mean, you got Devontae Parker there. You know, Parker, he's shown promise in the past. He's also shown that he can totally disappear in the past, right? For the purposes of this draft, I'm not going to take a receiver. I'm going to go grab a guy who I thought was going to be gone a long time ago, and Trevor Penning, who has not had a fantastic Senior Bowl week, and I think that's why he slid this far. Because at first, this was like a top 15 pick for me. But man, from Northern Iowa, I think this guy could be a really big addition to this franchise here and help out Tua probably more than any receiver could. Man, we got the Kansas City Chiefs on the clock, baby. Kansas City Chiefs on the clock. And finally, they agree with my needs that I think they do as well, and they need the receiver position help. I think Patrick Mahomes really needs another asset, man. Because they're getting old, man. I mean, you really think about it. Travis Kelce is getting old, man. Tyreek Hill, eventually his speed is going to slow down, and you can't just keep having Patrick Mahomes take these shots because he's waiting on these guys to get open. Like, you need another guy to hang around and present a little bit more value to him. And I think you got David Bell here. This guy is really good from Purdue. I mean, he can play inside, outside. He's definitely, I would say, out of the rest of these dudes available, kind of the most wide receiver one caliber, right? I think George Pickens also offers that as well. And I think he's got another good, like, first round type of mock to him as well. But David Bell, I just think, is slightly better. He's got a bigger frame too, right? 6'2" as opposed to 6 feet. That makes a difference. I think he's going to run well at the combine as well. I think they go out, they take a guy like David Bell, and they're very happy with that pick. And in terms of fantasy, you never draft wide receiver 2 for the Kansas City Chiefs, right? But I do think this opens up guys like Tyreek Hill, opens up guys like Patrick Mahomes a little bit more too, who actually slacked off in terms of fantasy this year. But I think this would be a really big benefit to him. Cincinnati Bengals, the potential Super Bowl winning team right here. I like Cincinnati in the Super Bowl. I know John does too. They could really build anywhere across the offensive line. A lot of linemen have already gone, obviously. But you're looking at the interior offensive line. I don't see that guy right now, right? Sean Ryan is good from UCLA. Jamari Salier has been disappointing from Georgia. So really these guys are not at the top of my boards. You look at the OT spot, though. I mean, you got Nicholas Petit-Frere from Ohio State, who's really good. You still got Bernard Raymond from Central Michigan. And then you got the guy I was talking about earlier, Daniel Falele, who, again, 380, bro, from Minnesota. The guy's a badass, dude. I think he's going to be fantastic. And you could pair up any of these guys with Joe Burrow. You continue to build on that fantasy electric football team. I'm going to go Bernard Raymond, though, who I do like a lot. I think he's going to be really good for this team. I think he's going to be good in the NFL once he gets there. Very big body dude. Just really kind of like a prototype offensive lineman in terms of his build. Last pick in the first round, man. We got the Detroit Lions. And I think for me, it made a lot of sense at the quarterback spot to go here because, I mean, you could build literally anywhere, right? There's so many positions that you really need to fill as the Detroit Lions. But in terms of just looking at who's available, I mean, I think quarterback makes a lot of sense. And you got a guy like Desmond Ridder here who probably has more upside than a guy like Carson Strong. You would really like to have a better player there, though, right? So you know what? I don't know. I mean, like the quarterback spot, it does make sense, but I don't know. I'm going to go George Pickens, wide receiver from Georgia. I was talking about him earlier. Definitely a first-round type of grade player off of George Pickens, and I think he could be really a big-time player for them. Day one, he would be right outside of Amar St. Brown and would elevate a guy like Jared Goff, too. I do think George Pickens, if he's healthy, could be fantasy relevant day one, too. I mean, I don't want to draft him because he is tied to the Lions, but definitely a guy that I think mid-season could be a late bloomer, just like Amon-Ra St. Brown was, right? He's a very good, productive receiver. He had a very interesting career in Georgia. This was a guy, his freshman year, I was like obsessed with this dude. In the first college video I did, actually, I highlighted George Pickens as being a guy that I really liked from Georgia. He just never panned out really, but he's a prototype wide receiver for the NFL. Number 33, the start of the second round, guys. We're going to go through this a little bit faster than we did in the first round, but we still got a ton of good talent available. What we're looking at, right, is they got edge needs, right? Well, Trayvon Walker from Georgia, tremendous, man. He's going to open up Josh Allen, their other pass rusher out there. And now you're looking at their first 2 picks. They got Evan Neal and Trayvon Walker, right? Josh Allen is a tremendous pass rusher for them. And last time he had his peak season was when they had Nakeem. It's the pass rusher that left to go over to the Las Vegas Raiders, right? I don't know how to pronounce his name. He also played for Baltimore for a short stint when he was trying to get more money. But man, I mean, Josh Allen, his rookie year, he came in and lit it up. I expect Walker to come in and elevate him to that level again. Detroit Lions are back up on the clock. And man, that's right. You get another pick right here. So guess what? They get to go Desmond Ridder. Let him sit on the sidelines. Let a guy like Jared Goff still take the reins for the next couple of years. But Desmond Ridder, out of the remaining quarterbacks, is the highest upside. He does have mobility. He had a lot of production at Cincinnati. Just fell short in that game against Alabama in the championship game. I don't think he will have any fantasy relevance in 2022. But in future years, this could be a guy dynasty-wise that's relevant. But I'm not really putting my hat in the bidding to go out and grab a guy like Desmond Ridder in terms of any fantasy, right? But the guy does have wheels, and the guy does have a pretty decent arm, and he's got chops from all the production he had at Cincinnati. So this guy's career could be pretty good, and he could be the future of Detroit right here. All right, up next, we got the New York Jets, man. New York Jets. I think edge is a spot they're going to also take a look at here. Cameron Thomas from San Diego State is a guy I like a lot, man. Very productive player at San Diego State. Senior, he's had a good Senior Bowl so far, 270 pounds. Go ahead and take that guy off the board right there. As the Jets fans, you got to be intrigued with your opening draft picks, right? Kyle Hamilton, Charles Cross, Cameron Thomas. You've addressed some big time needs for your fantasy, for your team, man. Let's see, John. I wonder how Jared Goff feels about the Rams this year. He's probably not watching the Super Bowl. I can tell you that. I don't think Jared Goff gives a shit about the Super Bowl this year. New York Giants are up on the clock again, man. And they've had a fantastic draft so far. Let me just tell you that. A fantastic draft so far. And you're looking at this squad here. There's a ton of talent available. Edge need is definitely still of importance to them because with their first 2 picks, they went offensive line, right? They went offensive line big time. I think they go out and get a guy like Arnold Ebiketie from Penn State, who I am obsessed with. I think he's a fantastic player. Mel Kiper loves this guy. Or Najee Sanders from Cincinnati, who really had a big-time year this year for Cincinnati and has been pretty good at Senior Bowl. Not amazing, but he's a big body frame, kind of a modern-day pass rusher. And out of these 2 guys, I'm going Arnold Ebiketie, who's had the best PFF season out of the most recent pass rushers from Penn State, including, like I've said before, Micah Parsons, who also was like the fastest man at the Pro Bowl, by the way. John, did you see that? Max, what's up, man? How you doing in the chat? Dude, Max, did you watch any of the Pro Bowl recap? Probably not. I saw Trayvon Diggs had like the best catch. He beat out like Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson. And Michael Parsons was like fastest man. He wants to get like a 95 Madden speed. Like, holy shit, man. The Cowboys could be crazy, man. Houston Texans up on the clock again. How about we just draft like everybody? You got to do something, right? Because this team is dog shit. This team is dog shit. But I do think going corner here makes a lot of sense. They also have a guy like Nakobe Dean still available. I think he's going to keep sliding. Receiver, they could definitely bolster because I think they're also going to probably lose a guy like Brandon Cooks because I know he wants no part of that team in the future. Quarterback, you're saying, oh, yeah, maybe you get the quarterback of the future. I think that's Davis Mills. I think Davis Mills is the quarterback of the future. And to be honest, I don't think they give a shit about putting people around him at all. So they go corner here. They go corner. You got Andrew Booth Jr., you got Roger McCreary, you got Kyler Gordon, Kyer Elam. Those are the guys I'm mainly looking at the corner spot here. I love Roger McCreary, but I envision him sliding. And whoever gets him is going to get a gem, right? But I think they're going to take Andrew Booth here out of Clemson. Better probably build for the NFL. And I think that's what teams like the Houston Texans just go for. They just go off of profile, right? Jets are up on the clock again, dude. Are the Jets never up on the clock? Man, they've got a great opportunity to load up this season. So you already grabbed an offensive lineman. I get it. You can load up again in the interior. Sean Ryan there would be the number one guy I'd be looking at. For me, though, I'm not looking there. I think you got linebacker is a big time need. You look at the coaching staff of the New York Jets. Obviously, a lot of legacy back to Shanahan, a lot of legacy back to the 49ers with Robert Saleh. And what did the 49ers and Robert Saleh have? Yeah, they had a great linebacker. Fred Warner, stud linebacker who has been outstanding for the 49ers. I think Nakobe Dean could be exactly that kind of guy here. Kobe Dean, like I said, for a long time was my favorite linebacker in the draft. Him coming in day one for the Jets would be starting alongside of Mosley if they can keep him there. Mosley never seems to really want to play for the Jets. But that is what they need, man. If they can get Kyle Hamilton, get a guy like Nakobe Dean, get a guy like Cameron Thomas. I mean, dude, that defense overnight could be an electric unit, right? And give a lot of headaches to opposing offenses. Like, seriously, the Jets could be an average defense next season if they follow this strategy, because these guys are really high value players, especially Nakobe Dean and Kyle Hamilton. Chicago Bears here, number 39. Ton of needs, but it's easy to me. We're going Daniel Flele for the Minnesota. Again, I've talked about him all night long. He's fantastic. He's finally going to go here. Denver, in the second round, I guess you could go quarterback, but I really, for the purpose of this mock draft, I'm going to assume that they just get a quarterback in free agency, even if it's not one of the big guys. I'm going to assume they take somebody or that they're happy enough with Drew Lock, which I certainly hope they're not happy enough with that, right? But hey, who knows, right? Maybe Drew Lock will have a great year next year. As this draft says, though, man, they do need some help at the OT spot. Safety also makes a lot of sense here. And I talked about it earlier. I think bringing in another safety could really, really make this defense next level. And that's what I like here, because I love Daxton Hill from Michigan and I love Jaquan Brisker from Penn State, both these guys. But Daxton Hill, he's just kind of a next level player from Michigan. The type of production he had was amazing. A guy that's going to be a little bit more versatile too. So I think bringing him in to Denver could make a lot of sense here and really change this defense. Seattle up on the clock here. Offensive line makes sense. Honestly, they need a lot of help everywhere, right? But offensive line, most importantly, and I think Nicholas Petit-Frere here, bam, let's take him off the board. No questions asked. Washington on the clock. You took the quarterback in the first round, Matt Corral. You got the strong receiver, right? You got Terry McLaurin, right? You got Antonio Gibson. You got the strong running back, right? So you've already got a lot of really important pieces. I think a guy like Roger McCreary would make a lot of sense for them. I think he fits that Washington build a lot too. I could just see the Washington football team getting him. But you know what? For the purpose of this draft, man, I'm going to say they go back to the receiver position. They take a guy like John Mechie III. Actually, no. You know what? Knowing Ron Rivera, he's too defense-oriented, right? This is too much of what I want, right? I want them to go receiver again. I like John Mechie from Alabama, but knowing Ron Rivera, knowing Jack Del Rio, I think they're going to stay on the defense side. And I do think Brisker makes a lot of sense here, having that safety value, which they seriously desperately need. Just they really need some help on the back end. We saw it get lit up all season long. If they're not going to address the corner position, they got to address the safety position, because they still got Fuller at corner, so he's a high value player. So I think it's really just about shoring up the back end of that. Atlanta Falcons on the clock, and they're definitely going to be going Logan Hall or Maji Sanders for me. Drake Jackson from USC also makes a lot of sense. He's a hell of a player. Really turned up on that back end of that season for USC. And I hate USC. You will never hear me talking good things about USC. But you're also seeing a guy who is still available, Jordan Davis. Yeah, man, he's available, and this is a scenario that happens because he's a pure run-stopping defensive tackle. He lost a lot of snap count. He did not play a ton. He did not play a ton in terms of snaps for Georgia. There's many reasons for that, but I do think teams are going to account for that, and also teams like a 3-down lineman, preferably, right? But I think the second-round value here for him is a tremendous grab. And I get it. They could also use some pass rush, but I think Jordan Davis can add a lot of benefit to that run D right there and ensure that up. And they got that other interior guy as well, who's a little bit more of a pass rusher. I think that would be a tremendous pair for the upfront right there. Got the Browns back on the clock. I mean, I would love to see them go double at receiver. But you look at best available, I think you got to start considering the fact that we go back to the edge spot here. Maji Sanders makes a lot of sense, and that's who I'm taking. I think he fits the scheme really well. Pair up alongside of Myles Garrett. This could be a real threat for teams in the future. Now we got the Baltimore Ravens on the clock. I like this guy, Perrion Winfrey, a ton, man. Perrion Winfrey has been lighting it up at the Senior Bowl, bro. He's such a good pass rusher. But so is Travis Jones. Travis Jones has been amazing too. He's a little bit thicker of a guy, so I don't think they'll go after him. But I honestly like both of these guys more than Fedarian Mathis, even though I think Fedarian Mathis is a really good player. So I'm going to go back to the edge. I'm going to take Logan All from Houston, really high productive player from Houston. Honestly, he was amazing. Even when Ed Oliver was there. I mean, this is a guy who has been really doing it for the past couple of years now. For a smaller school, I mean, they're still D1, but they're a smaller school, right? They don't get the recognition they deserve, but they've had a really strong defensive line for a while now. I mean, dude, remember back in the day when Ed Oliver was coming out of college? Like, Ed Oliver was like seen as the next Aaron Donald, right? And Logan Hall is no fluke either. I mean, this guy is a very good prospect this year. Minnesota Vikings back on the clock. They took corner in their first round, and I get it. Quarterback is up there too, right? Quarterback, maybe we go quarterback, replace that Kirk Cousins because we got a new coach here. I think they rest on a guy like Kirk Cousins because why disrupt something that works on your first year? I think what really makes sense is going interior defensive line here, building up that defense a little bit. Even though I like Winfrey and Jones more than Mathis, just based off of this week, especially at the Senior Bowl, I'm going to go for Darian Mathis here. I think he does make a lot of sense from Alabama. And baby, we got the Indianapolis Colts on the board. I actually get to talk about my team. I get to talk about the Colts. Wow, I never thought I'd ever be able to talk about the Colts and drafting, right? And there is, I've seen mockers taking Carson Strong here in the second. No way am I doing that because I don't want to hurt myself that bad. I don't like Carson Strong. I don't like Carson Strong at all. A lot of people do. I do not. And just because I know this won't happen, I know I'll never get this happy, I want to take a receiver, and I want to take John Mechie III, who was a really productive, really good receiver for Alabama. He got injured, which really slowed him down. But if you look at his numbers, I mean, he had a fantastic season. This guy got overshadowed by Williams a little bit, but man, this guy could be the real deal in the NFL. And the Colts desperately need a wide receiver, like desperately need a wide receiver. Whoever they bring in at quarterback, what they have at the talent spot there, Paris Campbell is clearly never going to be on the field. T.Y. Hilton is like 50 years old. Michael Pittman cannot do it alone. You need some help. I think John Mechie III is exactly what they need. Chargers on the clock, man. And yeah, as this thing points out, you can definitely come in there, help out Justin Herbert. That would help out there at the OT spot. But I'm not really a fan of any of these guys. Maybe a Max Mitchell from Louisiana. I did like him a little bit at the senior tape. But outside of that, I don't know. I'm not loving that. I think edge rusher makes a lot of sense too. They've got interior now with Devon White. I think coming back around here and getting a guy like Drake Jackson could make a lot of sense to bolster up the defense. I mean, the Chargers, you could say, have like a very established, amazing offense, right? They're probably going to lose Mike Williams. So I guess you could say maybe go out and get a receiver. But none of these guys really present that value outside of maybe a guy like Christian Watson to me, who has had a fantastic Senior Bowl. Look at this frame, too. 208.65. Very fast, too. People are thinking he's going to run in the 4.4s maybe. Man, if he can do that, he is going to be maybe a first-round draft pick. But the Chargers here, I'm going edge. And I'm taking Drake Jackson, who I like a lot from USC. And now the Saints are back on the board. They took wide receiver with their first pick. Again, I think they're not going to take a quarterback, so I think Carson Strong is going to continue to slide. And here you got to go Roger McCreary, who I just love too much. He needs to be taken. So my boy Roger finally gets to go, and he gets to go to the Saints, right? Gets to go from Auburn, so Mobile, Alabama, all the way over to New Orleans, which I'm going to be taking a visit to this year. I'm pretty excited about that. Any of you guys ever been to New Orleans, let me know, because I need some tips. I need some advice. The Cajun food I'm excited for. And Roger McCreary, man, he loves beans. He loves baked beans. That's his MO. Sugar and baked beans. Number 50. Oh, yeah, baby. The most fantasy relevant player we're talking about today, Breece Hall, running back for Iowa State, 3 down back. This is what we need, baby. We need a running back to go to Miami, and if Breece Hall goes there, he is going to be a dynamite, locked and loaded stud for the Dolphins, dude. This guy is going to be tremendous in the NFL. In terms of fantasy, he's my number 1 pick for fantasy football next year. Out of all these rookies, every single rookie, including Jameson Williams, who I have a man crush on, Breece Hall is going to be the real deal out of Iowa State, which is honestly kind of a running back university recently, right? They definitely can shell out some 3-down workhorses. And getting him in Miami would be really, really good because, look, we know Miami needs the help on the O-line for sure. But Tua needs assets all over. Myles Gaskin, we saw the amount of work they tried to give him and how inefficient he was at the running back spot. If you can put in a guy like Breece Hall there, you're putting in a way better player. Day one, I think this guy can get the starting job and be lights out for Miami, right? So he definitely has high anticipated draft capital if he goes to Miami, especially. Eagles up on the clock here. You're looking at best available here. A lot of good talent still remaining. Kyler Gordon, a lot of good corners. Already took 1 corner for the Eagles. Let's go back to see their picks a little bit here as well. We took Jermaine Johnson, Trent McDuffie, Drake London. So really address the defense and the skill spot on the offense there. Offensive line is definitely something I think they could still address here. Interior offensive lineman makes sense. I think John Ryan is a really good player still. I'm not obsessed with this move here. I'm not obsessed with it, to be honest. I don't love this pick. You guys can tell it in my tone, but I'm going Sean Ryan. I do think he's the best remaining interior offensive lineman. And I think that it will still help him out. It'll still help him out day one. I think he can make an impact. Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock, and they got to go OT. They got to draft an offensive lineman. Max Mitchell, he's been all right, I would say, for Senior Bowl week. I hope to see some more of him in the Senior Bowl game. But he's a good player. I mean, you see the build right there too, 6'6", 300. He's everything you need there. And it's such a big value need for the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially because they spent their first-round draft pick on a quarterback. I mean, you've got to address this offensive line. They were like dead worst in the league last year. Whether it's through free agency, which would eliminate the possibility of going out and getting a quarterback, or it's dressing in the draft. You got to do it. So, I mean, look at this too, right? Former 2-star recruit, and now he's with the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. Shout out Louisiana, making it on this stream twice now. Yeah, we're taking Max Mitchell, baby. We're taking Max Mitchell. All right, now we got the Las Vegas Raiders back on the clock. Interior D-line is what I'm thinking too. Perion Winfrey. I love him. I think he's a great pass rusher. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of flavor they want here. Travis Jones, say more of that prototypical interior D-line who's going to stuff the run, make a headache for teams. Played in Connecticut, right? A smaller school, but man, this guy is a freak athlete, dude. Very highly productive player. Actually, out of the entire interior defensive line class, he was, in my opinion, the most productive at UConn. So I like him a lot here. And I think Perion Winfrey is going to slide because he did kind of, so just like quickly on Perion Winfrey, I think the big thing hurting him is that he is more pinned for the pass rush, right? He's not as much of a run stopper, not as physical as a guy like Travis Jones. I'll get into him more when he actually gets taken, but Travis Jones makes a lot of sense here for the Raiders. Patriots up next, baby, and you know we're going corner here. Continue to beef up that defense. You got Kyler Gordon, who I think they would like, but Elam makes a lot of sense to me for the New England Patriots. He started every year for Florida, was a tremendous athlete for them, played against great competition. New England loves those SEC boys. Very, very good ball player. You can see right here, he actually played multiple sports in high school, which you always want to see, man. And the nephew of Ravens first-round pick, Matt Elam. I did not know that. So sometimes these bios are pretty cool. But, yeah, man, the biggest hate on this guy, sometimes he can get a little too greedy, get a little too many penalties. But, man, you look at this build. It's everything the NFL wants right now. 6'2", 193, long arms, physical corner with lots of production and lots of experience at an SEC school. Yeah, baby, New England's going after that for sure. And the Arizona Cardinals are on the clock, and I think corner here also makes a lot of sense. They went receiver first round, and I think they're going to hopefully get back one of their edge rushers because, guys, it's just a little too late to get a high-value draft pick here. I mean, you got some good guys, I guess. You know, I like Pascal. He's gonna probably be going off the board soon. Tyreek Smith has done pretty well this week. Kingsley, I like as well. He's a little freaky, actually. Kingsley, he's a good build, man. He's been playing pretty well. Look at that face, man. He's a happy guy. But no, for sure, I think the Arizona Cardinals here, they get better at the corner spot. And Kyler Gordon, you guys know how much I love him, who was tremendous for Washington. Plus, Arizona flavor-wise, they love those guys in Washington. That's just what they do. They draft those dudes. Buda Baker, Murphy as well. They have another corner in Arizona right now. It's from Washington as well. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that. Yeah, man. John, thank you for putting that in there, guys. You know, this is the first 2022 2-round mock draft we've done. But, you know, mostly a fantasy channel, but just trying to have a little fun, kind of get into some new type of content too, guys. And we do a lot for this college stuff as well. But, guys, if you are new to the channel, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Become part of the Discord, man. That's a great place to just get updates on what we're going to be going over on our streams. But, man, dude, come a part of it, dude. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, man, and we talk about everything. We talk about fantasy. We talk about college, NFL. We talk about movies. We talk about food, man. It's just a place where you can comment about the community right here at The Catch, right? Talk about The Catch. Cowboys need to catch a Super Bowl pretty soon, or it's going to be hell down there, right? Safety's a big time need for them. Lewis Cine is a tremendous player for Georgia, but this guy right here, Jalen Petir from Baylor, has been making people's heads spin at senior week. He's really made a name for himself. And I think that elevates him above a guy like Lewis Cine. And they take him right here. I think he's going to be really good. I think he'll be productive kind of day one for Dallas as well because it's such a need for them on that back end. And I mean, hopefully, bringing back the coaching staff and a lot of the returning vets, you still got Michael Parsons there too, and Diggs, these young athletes that are superstars. This could be another really good year for the Dallas Cowboys defense, man. Let's keep adding some pieces. Buffalo Bills, man, are on the clock. Hell yeah, we got my guy Perry Winfrey here. Let's talk about him real quick because I love this guy. So when I first started getting into kind of these 2022 prospects, I didn't have a lot of knowledge on kind of the non-top 3, top 4 prospects at the interior D-line spot. Perry Winfrey was a guy who just slipped out of that, and I feel like I didn't get to dig on a lot. Then I started seeing this dude's pass rushing capabilities and the stats he had. But you saw the small frame, you saw the cons, right? Not as physical, not as big. Then he comes into Senior Bowl week. All the comments people are saying is this guy's a different dude. He came in a different dude. He looks bigger. He was bigger at the at Senior Bowl. And when you see this dude going in the one-on-one drills, he is lighting people up. He was one of my favorite players to watch outside of Jermaine Johnson on the D line. This is a guy who is going to make a lot of heads turn. And I think he's going to be an impactful player year 1, too, for the Bills. And you can pair him up with Ed Oliver, another really strong interior defensive lineman. That's a really good move right there. I mean, their main competition isn't even in the division. It's the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think you can do that. You can spell it out, get Patrick Mahomes to swing out outside. Mahomes is good on the outside, but the number one way to screw up a quarterback is to pass rush up front, and that is exactly what Winfrey specializes in. Atlanta Falcons here, yeah, they got to go edge, man. I've addressed a lot of needs for them, but still a lot of needs left remaining, right? John Pascal here, taking best available edge rusher from Kentucky. This guy is a pretty high productive player. I do need to do a little bit more research on him. I even know more about Kingsley than Josh Pascal, but I still think from everything I've heard about the dude, Kentucky, the fact he went to Kentucky is one of the big negatives on him. Just the fact that they're not a bigger school for football, even though they had Khalil Mack. Green Bay Packers back on the clock, and edge rush is a need. Offensive lineman is a need. We haven't gone offensive lineman in a while, right? Whether they address that in free agency, we'll see. Receiver, could they go out and get a guy? I think Christian Watson is the only one that really makes a ton of sense here. Sky Moore, I like too from Western Michigan, but these just aren't the guys for me right now. I'm going edge, grabbing Kingsley here, grabbing really kind of one of the best players left, even though Boy Mafe too, he's had a really good Senior Bowl week as well. Made a name for himself. I think he'll probably be a high pick day 2 draft pick. I knew I have a shit ton of football cards, but they're all locked in the basement somewhere. So I gotta find those football cards, John. So I wouldn't be able to whip them out tonight. But definitely be doing some of those streams. I see you be dropping those shorts left and right on your football cards that you're getting, man. And let me just tell you what, man, that's a dangerous hobby once you start getting into the football cards. It gets addicting. I mean, I spent probably thousands of dollars on those things. And you look now at some of the value on those football cards. I mean, they range $50,000 if they're really good players. They were like crypto for a little bit. I mean, I feel like it was 2020. Those things were selling like hotcakes. All right, let's get back to Green Bay Packers. They're taking edge rusher Kingsley here. Now the Tampa Bay Bucks are back on the clock. With their first pick, they took quarterback, right? I was talking about how it was going to be something where if they addressed it early, they wouldn't have to worry about it. You look at kind of remaining talent, there's a ton of dudes here, right? For me, you got to go corner. got to look at it. I mean, it's a big time need for them. I mean, they do need to get better on the interior as well for both offense and defense. I think Tariq Woolen makes a lot of sense from UTSA. Kendrick has had a pretty bad week and slipped. Mario Goodrich, I think, is going to be a high-end third-round talent. Martin Emerson, I don't have a ton of info on. Still have heard, though, for the most part, he's going to be a third-round guy. So you look at it, right? They got their future quarterback in Sam Howell in this mock draft. You look at best available, maybe that's exactly what they target, right? Just best available. We haven't seen a whole lot of running backs go here. I do think there's a world where Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones both go. I think there's a pretty good world where that happens, which leaves them with Keyshawn Vaughn. I think it would make a lot of sense to bring in another running back, but I think those guys slide to the third round. I don't know, man. Kenneth Walker could be lights out for this Tampa Bay Bucks. You know what? We're going to do it for the fun of it. We're going to take Kenneth Walker. This is a projected world where Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette are both not Tampa Bay Buccaneers next year. Now, Kenneth Walker, my scoop on him. This is probably the best true running back in this entire draft class, in my mind. I think PFF has him as the graded the highest. I like Breece Hall more fantasy-wise because more production on third down, which is so pivotal nowadays, that pass-catching work. But Kenneth Walker's a stud, man. Kenneth Walker is a stud for Michigan State. He ran all over the place. He was in the Heisman running. The guy was an absolute animal. One of my favorite players to watch this season. Even when I wasn't watching college a whole lot the first couple games, I still loved watching this dude. I just love his build. He's like exactly what I look for in running backs. Getting him on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers could be massive. You look at this frame, right? 5'10", 210. He could really come in there day one and fill in that RB1 role, have Keyshawn Vaughn splitting. I think that's something that Tampa Bay wants to mimic going forward, too. I mean, they saw it with the success that it had there in Tampa with those other two guys. And now we really talk about the fantasy implications of that. I think Kenneth Walker is very fantasy relevant regardless of where he goes next year because he is going to be a workhorse back. He's going to be a guy who definitely sees first and second down and sees a lot of third down as we see the season progress, right? I think he's got that in his toolkit. He just hasn't been able to use it a lot yet, right? So definitely keep your eyes on him. I think he'll go after Breece Hall in fantasy, but just also depends on where he goes. All right, San Francisco 49ers are on the clock, man. Man, I really thought that they were going to make it all the way this year. I had a really good feeling they were going to make it all the way. All right, hold up. Hey, Steve, who would you draft, Murray, Lamar, or Burrow at the 109 Superflex? 100% Kyler Murray. 100% Kyler Murray. That's a great question, my guy. But Kyler Murray, man, we can't forget about what Kyler Murray did in the beginning of the season, man. He was on like record-shattering pace for fantasy. He was definitely the MVP clear runner for a long time. Arizona was off to a hot start. I think Kyler Murray's wheels and arm pair give him something that the other guys don't, right? Lamar Jackson, obviously, his wheels are insane, but his arm is not there right now. And also, Lamar's kind of one of those guys I want to avoid next season, right? Joe Burrow, I get it. All the sexiness about him recently. You're like, oh, man, he's so cool. He's so productive towards the back half of the year. He kind of won people championships, but you know, Joe Burrow, don't get me wrong. I'm not talking shit about him. He has definitely climbed the charts. He's like right outside the top 5 for me in fantasy quarterbacks next season, but he's not to the level of Kyler Murray quite yet. I'm leaning either Burrow or Kyler. I kept trading back after seeing who was being selected. Yeah, man, gotta go Kyler Murray here. I get it, though. I think either way, you're getting a really good player. I just, it's one of those things too. Like I was even thinking about it last night. Like we see teams change year over year. The Super Bowl winning team last year doesn't mean they're going to be good next year. The Bengals are so loaded offensively with skill wise, and they're young and they're hungry, but we'll see how they pan out next season. I think Joe Burrow is still going to be very relevant, but I don't know, man. I think Kyler's a way better player for fantasy, more of a surefire, locked and loaded fantasy player next season. John, let me know what you think too. Chat, Catch fam, what do you think? Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, and let's throw in another one. Patrick Mahomes. I like to get your guys' gauge on Patrick Mahomes. I think this is a guy that you guys are kind of fading recently. I think fantasy community is maybe thinking he's not what he used to be after his kind of disappointing season this year. And he was still a top quarterback this year. San Francisco 49ers, though, they are on the clock, man. A lot of needs. It's their first pick, too. Corner, that's where I'm going. And I think getting Tariq Woolen right here makes a lot of sense. Again, I like Mario Goodrich, too. It's really about picking your flavor at this point, at this spot. I mean, there's so many good corners here. Kobe Bryant, even from Cincinnati, look at how far he's sliding. It's definitely going to be a third-round type of talent. You also see their needs on the edge and interior D-line. Take a quick look there. I like Haskell Garrett a lot from Ohio State. He got banged up this week at the Senior Bowl. John Ridgeway, he's and Zach Carter, not crazy about, but would be a decent pick. And at the edge spot, I do like Nick Pitino. Nick Pitino, oh gosh, I can't even say his name, from Oklahoma, but he's pretty good. But I'm sticking to my original pick here, taking Tariq Woolen. And then the Kansas City Chiefs back on the clock. Going to be an interesting season for them next year. I think getting Christian Harris here would be really good to pair up with Nick Bolton. But edge is a big-time need. Boy Mafe, like I said, had a really strong senior week so far. Really strong senior week. I think he might have made himself a second-round draft pick here. It's really about what's more important to these guys, right? Linebacker or edge? Thing is about linebackers, I think Christian Harris can be like a 10-year starter at about Alabama. And I think pairing him up with Nick Bolton could give you another just electric duo at the linebacker spot, one of the next best linebacker duos that are so young, going to be around for a while. So I'm going to take Christian Harris here. I like this pick. Cincinnati Bengals, man. Stud team, ton of flavor all over the place. They got a ton of talent all over the place. That's right. Carson Strong's going to fall out of the second round from my pick here. Guess what I'm going to do with my second round, though? Just to shout out my guy Ryan, because I think this is something that might happen, too. I think the Bengals load up even more on offense. Dude, they need a lot of defensive help. But I think they can do this at this point, right? If you get to the Super Bowl, bro, you take Trey McBride here. Trey McBride, pull him up here just so you guys can kind of just get a quick overview of him. But, dude, this guy is lights out, bro. By far the best tight end in this draft class, the Mackey Award winner coming out of Colorado State. This guy is going to be around for a long time. You cannot contest this guy enough. He's going to catch the football. Some of the catches this guy's made in Senior Bowl week, it's pretty outstanding. This guy is definitely a dude that is going to make an impact year one. In year two and year three, I mean, this guy could be putting his name in the ring for fantasy assets all over the place. I mean, shit, let's say he goes to the Bengals or another explosive offense team. This is a guy that can really elevate a guy like Joe Burrow to being a top 3-4 quarterback next year. But Trey McBride individually could really step in and be a big-time player. I get it. They got Azamo. He got hurt in the game against the Kansas City Chiefs. But, I think it's a little bit easier to move on from him now, coming off that injury. And you get Trey McBride with the talent is just so tremendous there. You got to take him. And like I said, dynasty-wise, tight end's not always the greatest position there for dynasty, but Trey McBride definitely holds long-term value there. I mean, this is serious talent here. John, I know you love the tight end position too, so that's a shout out to you as well. Denver Broncos on the clock. Last pick too. It's the last pick in the 2-round mock draft that we're doing tonight. What are we gonna do? Here? Do we take Carson Strong? I think we take Carson Strong. Here. Oh man. No, I'm not doing it. I'm going corner. Going corner. I'm taking Mario Goodrich here. Nah, man. Nah, the Broncos. We'll take Carson Strong here. As much as I don't love this pick, I don't love Carson Strong. To be honest, I just think this guy has a lot of inconsistencies. He's got a good deep ball just for the fact that he's got one of the best arms. He's got a lot of whip on that ball. I mean, it can bomb, bro. I mean, he can really kick it down the field. Um, and I do also like I was listening to a podcast about Carson is that he controlled the field. Like he literally like didn't even talk to the sideline. Like he would just have play calls and he would call the plays. That shows a lot of control of the field, a lot of control of the game, and I think that's really important for when you're transitioning to the NFL because you're a better improv type of player. But he's got no sorts of dual threat capability. He's got low mobility. He's got knee injuries. Not fast at all. I mean, like alarmingly slow. But again, I mean that arm, if it can get honed in a bit, could be could be next level. He's definitely got a rocket to him. So if you can tone it in a little bit, if you can put some touch on it, put some accuracy on it, this is definitely a guy who could be good. And you got Judy all over the place. You got Sutton, you got Patrick, you got Fant, you got the weapons all over. So I think bringing in a quarterback, you could bolster up, and he could beat out a guy like Drew Lock, I would say, by midseason. And if they don't bring in another free agent, this might just be the best way to go about it, right? Because you get edge, you get safety, two big time needs for them. Then you come back and get quarterback. That's a way that you don't have to spend shit ton of capital on getting a guy like A-Rod or Russell Wilson necessarily, right? And this will bridge you another year. But I do think the Broncos ultimately are probably going to get a free agent. All right, gang, that is going to finish the 2022 mock draft. That was fun. That was fun. That was long. That was a long mock draft. That was a very it was like intense. I've never done 2022 or two rounders before. I think the biggest shakeups when you this, we saw Mr. Davis from Georgia slide pretty far into the second round. We saw Tampa Bay go up and grab Sam Howell, which I would think would be really cool, honestly. Yeah, we saw some fun stuff there in that mock draft. So definitely let me know what you guys think about all these prospects. Let me know what you think about these 2 round mock drafts. Probably going to be focusing a lot more of my attention on player rankings and big boards going forward, and also picking up the fantasy a little bit more as we start winding down the actual season and start looking forward to more 2022 fantasy content. But before we do that, and before we close the stream, I wanted to take a quick look at this article. We all obviously saw the Flores situation happen, and that was kind of a nightmare. But this article is pretty cool. It's just saying ranking NFL's new head coaches. Vikings, Bears find best hires for 2022. Raiders worst so far. So we're gonna go through this. We're gonna give our input. Man, Justin Jefferson's such a beast. That's a cool video. That's a cool video. Shout out that video just because Justin Jefferson's a badass. But Kevin O'Connell for the Vikings. They've got him at number one. This is interesting because I was actually thinking, I was like, how has this guy not been signed yet or hired yet? Or not even interviewed? Because I didn't even hear any interviews from this dude. The Vikings were having a bunch of hardball rumors. But dude, Kevin O'Connell, obviously being around for a long time, coming from that Sean McVay coaching tree, I definitely think he's going to be somebody who comes in and elevates the Vikings team. I just think it was the end of the road for Mike Zimmer. So I think this will be good. I think you're going to probably get somebody at the level of like a Kevin Stefanski, though. And Kevin Stefanski's coach for the Vikings as an OC. So not sure it's like that much of an elevation, right? But you follow suit with this Sean McVay, Zach Taylor approach of young, offensive minded coaches. And, we saw what that turned into the Zach Taylor led Bengals. But I'll take this a step further. I mean, I would agree that this is the number one coaching decision because I think the fact that they focused in on what is already a strength to kind of elevate it even further puts that in a position where, I mean, I have even more confidence that the Vikings could be a potential Super Bowl team next year. We saw what the Bengals did, right? They had the talent. They needed the quarterback, obviously, but they had the talent there in place. The coaching, everything kind of came together. I think the Vikings, if they stay healthy, they have that as well. Now they've got the coach too. I think the coach was missing for a long time in Minnesota. Matt Eberflus from Chicago. Yeah, I love this pick here. I love this pick. This is not my second favorite hire. I'm also a little bitter because he left Indy, but I do think he's going to elevate the Chicago Bears a ton. I think getting Matt Nagy out of there is going to be big time. This is another hire where they kind of focus on what they're strong at, which is on the defense, right? I think Eberflus is going to get the Chicago Bears defense to be top tier again. I think fantasy wise, big implications. I mean, I'm willing to put a lot of money on the fact that the Bears are going to be very fantasy relevant next year. They've got so many pieces. They just need to be coached up the right way. Brian Dable is actually my second favorite hire here. It's kind of shitty because his name got kind of dragged through the proverbial kind of mud because of all the rumors and everything with the Flores shit that went down, and it sucks. But Brian Dable is a great coach, bro, and he's been deserving of a coaching gig for a long time out of Buffalo. What he was able to do with Josh Allen, turning him around, was obviously tremendous. But further than that, too, I mean, like, he also elevated other players on this offense for the Bills. I mean, this was like historically an offense in Buffalo that was kind of lackluster for a long time. And I get it, Josh Allen does have a piece of that success, but Brian Dable was pivotal for his growth, along with the quarterback coach there too. So I think him coming into the Giants, where again they're going to invest in the O-line, invest in Daniel Jones, and Brian Dable is going to be able to come in, help out a guy like Daniel Jones, definitely day one, right, and at least get an idea for if Jones is the future of the New York Giants. Number 4, they've got Nathaniel Hackett. So, all right. So my order so far, to recap, by the way, it's number 1, obviously, with my boy Kevin O'Connell, then Brian Dable, then Matt Eberflus, right? This is where it'll also kind of pivot up here. I got number 4, Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson just getting hired by the Jags. Brian Leftwich took his name out of the racket. I don't know why Byron Leftwich took his name out of the cards. I think maybe we could be seeing Bruce Arians. Maybe he told him, hey, man, you're the future of this team. I'm going to be stepping down in a year or so. If not already this year, we've seen Bruce Arians dip very quickly in the past and just retire and step away from the game. So that's not out of the cards, right? But Doug Peterson brings Super Bowl success. He brings consistency, leadership. He brings, I think, more of a football mind than Urban Meyer does. And he's going to bring culture to this team too. I think this is going to be a really, really good pick for the Jags. I think it's going to do a good job in kind of resurging Trevor Lawrence, and he needs a guy who's going to be able to do that. Number 5, I got Nathaniel Hackett. The article has him number 4. I mean, it's just tough because sometimes it's hard to separate the greatness of the quarterback spot with coaching. But I do think Nathaniel Hackett, young coach, 42, comes in here from Green Bay in this LaFleur system, and is going to be able to elevate the offense for sure. I mean, Vic Fangio was not an offensive-minded coach. Pat Shurmur really just never did anything well there, right? But they also bring in the tight end coach from Green Bay. And I think the biggest thing is that this elevates the possibility that Aaron Rodgers wants to land in Denver, stay with his coaches. He's all about relationships. So if they get A-Rod, this is the best hire because they got also the superstar quarterback. And the worst hire so far, Josh McDaniels for the Raiders. Dude, this guy has literally been riding the coattails of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick for so long, bro. I don't like him at all. I think he's a really bad coach. He also, like, joined the Colts, then left the Colts because he's a piece of shit and doesn't know loyalty. But no, I mean, at the end of the day, like, we saw Josh McDaniels as a head coach. Like, he sucked for the Denver Broncos. Like, he was dog shit. And nothing's changed. I don't think it's going to work out at all. I think this is a really bad move for the Raiders, like a really bad move. I think they should have stayed with their interim coach. Obviously, you know, as the article kind of points out, there were the rumors about Jim Harbaugh, but This was a really bad decision for the Las Vegas Raiders. The only thing that, was good that they brought over another Patriot guy, Dave Ziegler, or Ziegler from the Patriots, which is more front office work. But Josh McDaniels, I really that relationship between front office and head coach doesn't result in him staying for, out welcoming his stay. Because this is going to hurt Derek Carr too. Because I just don't love McDaniels' ability to elevate an entire team. But with that said, guys, we are going to wind down stream now. We are going to start ending it. It was a long one, man. It was a long one. And like I said earlier, guys, if you are watching this for the first time, watching this retrospectively, and have stayed all the way to the end on this one, definitely hit that like button, hit that sub button, become part of the Catch fam, and we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. A lot more fantasy content to come, a lot more player rankings, and some of these rookies, some of these college videos, man. I'm going to start focusing more on fantasy implications too. Obviously, it's going to help a ton more when we start looking at where they're going to land, obviously. But I think it's starting to get time to start narrowing in your dynasty approach as well. But more than that too, guys, on these streams, join that Discord. Let me know whenever I give you guys a shout out that I'm going to be doing some streams. Let me know what kind of content you want, right? If you guys want to talk about movies for a bit, man, we can definitely chime in for like movies and TV and food for like 30 minutes to an hour. Shit, we can do it all night, baby. I don't care. Whatever you guys want to talk about, I want to talk about. So just let me know. Definitely jump down there and join the Discord if you have not already done that. Obviously, a great way to get updates on not only when we're doing streams, but any sort of NFL news, fantasy news. Shit, we got pages for basketball, movies. I mean, we got so many pages down there where all the Catch Fam community comes in there and just gives updates to whatever they want to, right? It's definitely a cool place. And it's also a good place to get more updates on these mock drafts, which we're doing, these fantasy mock drafts. I think John's going to be rolling one out here pretty soon on this weekend, potentially. So definitely reach out on the Discord if you are not already signed up for that or know about that, so we can get you on that as well. Andrea, thanks for jumping in here. Andrea, I hope you have a great Friday. We're about to close out tonight. Ryan, again, thanks for jumping in. Everybody that was watching this video or was in the chat, really appreciate y'all tonight. Man, what a great way to start the Friday, right? I was a little tired today. You guys have helped me out a little bit. I got a little coffee in my system too, which also helps. But being part of the Catch fam also definitely gives me a little bit of a boost, right, before I get some dinner, because that's what's up next. I'm getting kind of a Mediterranean dinner tonight. So it'll be interesting. I'm excited for it. I'm excited. Got to go healthy. Went to the doctors today. They said, well, they didn't say it, right? But they showed me the weight, and I wasn't too happy with it. Steve was not too happy with the weight department. So that's going to be how we close tonight's stream. But let me know, guys. Let me know in the comments. If you want any sort of individual prospect breakdown in particular, let me know that, because I need to get more research on all these day 2, day 3 prospects as well, right? All right, guys. Hope you had a good one. Hope you had fun. I certainly did. And remember, you saw it here first at the Catch.